So I've had an allotment plot now for about 4 to 5 years, and over that time I have learned quite a lot about allotment life. So whether you're just starting off, you've just been handed those keys for your allotment and you think, what now? Or you've had an allotment for a while but it's been snowballing, you feel that it's gone on top of you and you need a little bit of guidance of how to get back on track, I'm hoping this video will be for you. So you've had the phone call, you've had the email to say that there's a plot available for you to go and have a look at. Now these are some of the things that you might actually need to consider before taking on an allotment plot in your area. So you arrive at the allotment site and you expect to see an allotment plot like this, all nice long beds, all groomed for you, all dug through, all ready for spring. But it's not like that for most of the time. And if you get an allotment plot that looks like that, then you have actually struck gold, because 9 out of 10 times is a disaster at the start. Now, if you actually get lucky and you receive a plot like this that have got some raised beds in, nice paths, some fruit bushes, some trees, maybe a shed, a greenhouse, maybe even a polytunnel, then you've actually struck gold and you've actually won the lottery in allotment life. Because most of the time you'll be shown a plot like this. Now you would look at this and think, oh my God, there's so much to do, but there actually isn't as much as you think, but there is a bit of graft involved when you first start. Now my first tip when you first take over an allotment is to try and make a plan and clear every single thing off the beds, because there will be a lot of weed seeds now. I mean, if you've got it in autumn, chances are they've all gone to seed, and all those weed seeds now are blown all around your plot for next year. But we'll talk about that later on. So the first thing you want to do is create a compost bay. One compost bay made out of a few pallets, made into a cube shape, and then you can actually clear all the foliage off, all the weeds, all the grass that you've grown over the beds and whatnot, and all the other bits and bobs, all the prunings that you don't actually need, and take them all away, pop them in the compost bay, let them rot down, and then carry on clearing through the plot. Now my advice would be to get some plastic if you've got quite a big area, and cover the whole lot as much as you can to stop more weed seeds growing while you're trying to clear the beds. And then roll back some of the plastic every time you visit, weed a bit more, even if it's by hand or by using a fork and digging out those perennial weeds, because they'll just keep coming back, like dock leaves, thistles, dandelions, all those things. They're an absolute pest when you first start, so they need to be removed before anything else. And my advice would be to just take those home, pop them into your green bin and let them be dealt with by someone else rather than you popping them on the compost heap. And then they might even root there and might cause more issues for you later on. So that's my first tip when you first start an allotment. Now my next tip is to actually get a pen and paper and go through your allotment plot and make an inventory of everything you've already got on there, whether or not it's trees, fruit bushes, sheds, greenhouses, every material that you've got, so that you've got some kind of recollection of everything you've got on your plot to make a plan. Because there's no point you getting excited, going on the internet, ordering trees, ordering more fruit bushes, and you might actually already have them on the plot. And another tip around that is to ask your plot neighbours, because chances are they know what's on their allotment plot as well, because they might have known the previous plot holder. So get some information from other plot neighbours. Ask the committee if you're actually just joining, who are my plot neighbours, when are they usually up, so I can chat to them as well. Because before taking on an allotment plot, you need to know really what's there and also what's beneath the soil. And what I mean by that is that you might see a plot and you might think, oh, that's not so bad. It doesn't look so bad right now because it's autumn and winter. And then spring comes, the soil gets warm, the sun is out, and then mare's tail and bindweed is right through your plot. And if you are working full time and you haven't got much time to be maintaining that plot as much as you thought it would be, those could be the problems that might actually make you question whether or not you can keep your allotment plot on full time. So if you have got bindweed on the plot, that can be maintained by keep digging at it and digging at it. But again, it can become a full-time job for a few years, but it will eventually die down to a manageable job. Mare's tail is more about managing it rather than eradicating it, because it actually goes so deep down into the ground, you'll never ever be able to remove it organically. So the best idea is that if you have got a small area, just keep maintaining it every time you come, knocking them off. They don't actually bother with the plants that much, they're just more unsightly. And my next tip is to ask the committee or your council if there's things that you can buy inexpensively from them. Sometimes they might have sheds stored, or polytunnels, greenhouses, tools that they might actually have collected from plot holders that have left. And they might be able to give you them for free or give you them for a small price to start you off. There's no point you starting an allotment and buying all those expensive beds, all those expensive tools, and then after a couple of months you realise that you're working full time, family life is coming on top of you, and you can't actually continue with the allotment, and you've now got all these things that you don't actually really need. And if you've taken on an allotment plot in autumn and winter and you've got fruit bushes and fruit trees on there, now is the time to prune them back, especially apples and pears. Plums and cherries wait till summer, but apples, pears and all the fruit bushes like black currants, blackberries and whatnot, autumn and winter is a perfect time to start pruning them back to a manageable size, and then that will encourage fruit for next year. So if that hasn't put you off, let's go on to the next step. I mean, it does actually get better. It really does. When you first take on that allotment plot, if it is in disarray, it is a bit of a challenge, but when you get through all that, it will be 100% worth it in the end. So let's fast track a little bit now. You've cleared the plot, you've made a compost bay, everything in there now is rotting away, forget all about it. And my advice as well is, if you've got a compost bay, try and put in a little bit of a sunny area. A lot of people try and put them into the shady area out of the way, but increasing the heat by using the sun will actually break that down faster. So now the fun part. So now you've got a clean canvas, you've put a compost bay on, you're now looking at structures, you're getting excited, you're seeing greenhouses on marketplace, you're thinking about buying that polytunnel. Think about the space that you've got first. If you've got a full plot or a half plot, don't try and fill it with so many structures. Look at how much growing space you've got. Think about what you can grow in those areas, because there's no point you putting a big polytunnel right at the front of your allotment and then right behind it then is all in shade most of the time, because you didn't structure it in a way where it would be best for growing. For example, the sun comes from east to west, so I put the polytunnel go in that direction so that the sun comes up over it and back down the other end, so it gets a full amount of sun through the seasons. But at the back then I've got an area which I can actually store tools in there, IBC tanks and anything else that you need for spring and summer but is unsightly through autumn and winter. Now to start planning your beds, so make a list of all the things that you actually enjoy eating. There's no point you growing, especially in the first season, all these experimental vegetables, all these nice flowers that you like to grow. My advice would be to look at all the things that you really enjoy growing and focus on those. Make a few beds, plant some things in at the start of spring, make another couple of beds, plant more in. Do not clear a whole plot and then try and get all that work done in the start of spring. You'll be exhausted. My advice would be to do a little bit, plant in, a little bit more, planting. And the idea about that is as well is that when you get tired and you feel defeated and you think there's too much more to do, you'll be looking back at those other raised beds that are actually growing on, and it will spur you on to think, I've got things to reward me all the way through the seasons, rather than working really hard to get all those beds in, all filled up with soil, and you've missed half the season by doing all that hard work. So now you're looking at seeds and you're thinking, where do I start? My advice would be to do a couple of each thing. So maybe a few cabbages, a few carrots, a few onions, and so on, rather than getting too excited, going to the shops, buying 6 bags of potatoes, and then when you get there then you realise you've only got a half plot and you've got nowhere to plant them all. So do not get too excited at the start. And I know that's hard to say because we've all been there, but plan out some of the beds, put little markers in, and I've actually got like sheets that I've printed off. I've made blueprints of both my allotment plots, and I use small little post-its and I move things around on the beds to kind of work out where I want things to go. And I even put post-its on top of post-its because it might be the next succession or something that's already in the bed and what's going to go in next. So underneath will be the autumn and winter veg, and then on top then I'll put in there what I'm going to be putting in once I pull them out in spring. So my next tip would be to make a plan. Do not rush into it, because chances are the plan will always modify, change and adapt to what you need. Because sometimes you might think, I've grown carrots in that bed, it didn't work, so I'm going to actually move them to another bed, and actually I didn't want to grow that many carrots anymore, so I'm going to make a smaller bed. So start off with some nice wooden beds. You don't have to go to the extreme expense of having all metal beds. I mean, it is an option, and I've got many of them, and there are massive benefits for having those because they last a lot longer. But start slow, enjoy the process of growing vegetables, and keep it simple. Keep it simple for the first year and enjoy that experience. And if you've got areas that you can't tackle yet, it doesn't matter, there's always another year. It doesn't mean that story has to be finished in 1 year. I am now on year 2 of my one allotment, and I've still got a derelict shed that still needs to be taken down. And is it a priority to be right now? No. Preparing the beds, mulching the paths, getting everything ready for the growing season, and all those extra jobs that you think I really need to get done, they can be done on another day. Now, another thing to consider if you're going to look at an allotment is to take photographs, because when you get home you'll forget so easily, but take photographs, and also they can be used later on when you start looking at the progress that you've done on your plot. You'll be a reminder of where you started and where you are now, because you'll easily forget, and on those disheartened days where you think, I've not really done much on that allotment, you can look back and think, wow, look where I started. And when visiting, take a trowel, take a fork, dig down into that soil and have a look at what's down there, because it could be sandy, it could have a clay soil bed. You need to know these things before considering taking on that allotment plot, because even though brassicas love like clay and they can grow into that, other plants might not like that. So if you've got in your head a certain garden that you want to grow in, make sure the soil beneath you is what you really want. And you can ask the committee as well about this as well, and dig up a little bit. It doesn't matter. They're not going to worry that you're going to say yes or no, because it is always your choice. Also ask them if there is other options. They might be showing you one allotment plot, but there might be another 3 or 4 around the site that they wouldn't considering yet, but might be coming up in the next couple of weeks and couple of months. So ask them, is this the only option that I've got? Is there others that I can look at? And lastly, ask them the rules, because every allotment, regardless of if it's council run, committee run or private land, they will have a set of rules that you should abide by, because it is your responsibility and theirs to make sure that you're both working by those rules. So make sure before you put up a polytunnel or a greenhouse or a shed, or you put all these structures in, that is allowed on your site, because you don't want to tip the apple cart and upset people on the committee, on the council, your plot neighbours. Always remember, it's not just your allotment site, it's actually your neighbours and your friends and your future friends' site as well. So when you're putting that structure up, consider it might shade out their favourite patch of their allotment plot. Think about those things. Try and talk to them and ask them, is it okay to put it here? Ask the committee, ask the council, am I allowed to build this here? What is the size restrictions on a shed, a polytunnel and a greenhouse? So if I haven't scared you off by now, now is the time to start thinking about all those fun things. You know, get yourself a set of wellies, get some tools, buy some seeds, and absolutely enjoy your season, whether or not it's the hard work of digging, covering, weeding, pruning, sowing, growing and harvest. At the end of it, it is 100% worth it. If you're a grower, you know that that experience of starting a project and finishing it is paramount. Another thing to consider is the pests and problems of the future as well. So when you're planning out your allotment, or you're looking on YouTube, or you're seeing in books those perfect rows of cabbages, no holes on them, nothing's attacked them, nothing's dug up those crops, consider the pests and problems you might have in your area as well. Whether or not there's an abundance of squirrels or badgers or rabbits or pigeons or foxes, or just things like couch grass, mare's tail, bindweed, all the other pests like whitefly, blackfly. I mean, I could continue the amount of things that you're battling. Tomato blight, potato blight, allium leaf miner, cabbage whites. The list goes on and on and on. Having an allotment, having a garden is a battlefield sometimes, but consider those things when you're planning out your allotment, whether or not you're going to take on that allotment. Some things might need to be netted, some things doesn't, but think about those things when you're planning out your allotment as well. There's no point you buying a circle bed and then planting it for onions. How are you going to net that later on? That's why most of my beds are 3 foot wide, and then as long as I need them to be, because the hoops that I've got actually fit on those beds easily. There's no point me having a 3 foot wide bed here and then a 2 foot wide bed over there, and I can't use them adaptable on each bed. So think about all those things as well. There's so much to think about when you start an allotment, but I promise you the whole experience, the whole buzz of it all is mainly enjoyable. My biggest tip would be to subscribe to this channel, because I will show you realistically all through the seasons of growing and harvesting and sowing and enjoying your whole allotment life. I grow vegetables 52 weeks of the year, and I'm forever putting out videos every week on a Sunday of showing you allotment life through the seasons. And also take the benefits of your plot friends and neighbours as well. They will gladly give you strawberry runners, give you cuttings of plants, give you seeds, extra seedlings that they've got. I promise you, growing vegetables in a nice community is all about sharing and giving other people the things that you don't need, because there will always be a million spares in spring. And that will always cut down the costs, especially for the first year of growing. So when you look at my channel and other channels and you see all these things like polytunnels, greenhouses, fruit cages, archways, raised beds, sheds, they're not needed to start off with. Start off with some good soil, a handful of seeds, enjoy the process, and everything else then you build up over time. It's not a race. So if you are fortunate to have a polytunnel, a greenhouse or a shed already on your plot, consider connecting a water barrel in autumn and winter to collect that water ready for spring. So if you are a new plot holder and you kind of don't know all the rules yet, chances are the water on your allotment site might not be on until April, and you may need water in January, February and March for those seeds. So consider that as well, collecting water in a barrel on your allotment plot ready for spring. Whew, listening to all this, I'm starting to wonder why I even bothered. It's worth it, I promise. And lastly, join in with the community of growers that you've got around you. Use that benefit of asking them for knowledge that they've gained by growing around that area. A book on the internet can tell you one thing, but having a plot holder that's actually right on your doorstep, they'll say to you, that doesn't work here, it's too windy in winter, maybe consider moving it here. Their advice could be vital sometimes on you having a better experience on your plot. Make friends, enjoy the community that you've got around you, share seeds, share plants. It's not just your allotment plot, it's the whole ethos around you, and I promise you, you will benefit from it way more than doing it all by your own, and you might even make friends from it as well. I'm Danny, and this is Grow Up.